Hello and welcome to BFCA. In the last video, you saw how there can only be an employment contract when all the three factors known as the irreducible minimum of 3 exist: personal service, control, and mutuality of obligation. In this video, you'll hear about personal service. If there's no contractual obligation for personal service in the limited company contract, that is, the service doesn't have to be carried out specifically by one individual worker, and the actual working arrangements are consistent with this contract, then the contract is outside IR35. In the ready-mixed concrete case, Judge McKenna said, "Freedom to do a job either by one's own hands or another's is inconsistent with a contract of service, though a limited or occasional power of delegation may not be." And in the later case of Express Echo v Tanton 1999, Lord Peter Justice said, "It's in my judgment established on the authorities that where, as here, a person who works for another is not required to perform his services personally, then as a matter of law the relationship between the worker and the person for whom he works is not that of employee and employer." Because of this, many people focus on the subject of substitution, but this is just part of the story. For a contract not to have a right of personal service, then there could be various clauses in the contract that would demonstrate this. For example, the right of the company to send a substitute for a named worker on the contract, this right not to be unreasonably fettered. The right of the company to subcontract the fulfilment of the contract to another party, this is different to assignment of the contract. The right of the company to supply services of any of its employees at any time and to hire helpers to fulfil the engagement. It's important to remember that it's the rights on the contract that are important here, not whether those rights are exercised. In recent case law, it's been demonstrated that the rights under the contracts must be practical and reasonable for the circumstances. Any clauses that are a sham will be looked through and disregarded. For example, if you're relying on a clause in your contract that says you can supply any employee, but in reality you're a one-person limited company, then this clause will not be practical and a court or tribunal would be more than likely to disregard it. If a one-person limited company with only one employee has the right to substitute that employee with another party, which could be a contractor or employee, at any point in the contract, this removes the personal service factor from your engagement, and this can also be the case with the right to subcontract part or all of the contract, or use one or more employees or contractors. HMRC also give useful advice on disproving a right of substitution in their manual ESM 0537. They start, however, by saying, disproving a claimed right of substitution can be difficult. Unless there's reason to doubt, a claimed right of substitution may normally be accepted at face value. They then go on to discuss the areas where a right of substitution would not normally be accepted. For example, the worker has been hired through his or her limited company because he or she has certain particular skills. So, if you're a one-person limited company, if it doesn't have to be you doing the work, you will be outside of IR35. But remember, this is not the only factor to consider. Remember the irreducible minimum of 3: personal service, control, and mutuality of obligation. An employment contract will only exist where all 3 factors are present. 2 out of 3 is not enough. So in the next video, we'll look more at the next factor, control. Thanks for listening.